we continue with the task of informing our minds in relation to God. And today, our subject is, what does God do for us? And before we go into the topic, let me tell you something. There was a man who met with an accident. And the accident was so disastrous upon him, he lost his memory. And anywhere he would go, he would not be able to identify who he was. And he would ask people, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And nobody could have told him. And somebody told him, I know who you are. After a long time asking people who he was, somebody told him, I know who you are. And then the man asked him, who am I? And he said, your name is Satish. You are the son of so-and-so, and you live in a place, in such and such a place. The same is the case with me and you, brothers and sisters. We have lost contact with ourselves. We don't know who we are. Who am I? Where have I come from? And where do I go when I leave here? And when I go wherever I have to go after leaving here, with whom am I going to live? I know in this lifetime, I live with mommy, daddy, I live with my spouse, I live with my children, and live with my friends. I live with so many people. But when I go from here, where do I go and with whom I would live? I do not know. And so that's the problem with all mankind, whether we're Hindus, Muslims, Christians, or Jews, whether we are African American or Indo-American or whatever American we may be, or whatever Canadian we may be, or whatever nationality we may be, we do not know who we are. And this mantra we're studying today tells us, Ya Atmada. God gives us the consciousness that we are soul. For all lifetime we felt we are this body, I'm this hand. So if anybody cuts my hand, they cut me because I am this body. I am the money in the bank. If they rob my bank account, they rob me. I am this house. If they burn my house down, they burn me. If they take a nail and rub it to the side of my black, shiny, brand new car, they scratch me. And my reputation is me also. If they injure and lambaste my reputation, they injure me. But God tells us when we sit down and we focus on him, God tells us, Atmada, O soul, I want to tell you that you're not this body, you're not the money, you're not the house, you're not the land, you're not the car, you're not the degree, you are a soul. Ya Atmada Balada, and he gives us this God. What does he do for us? This God gives us the strength, the emotional, psychological strength that we can live in pursuit of the fact that we are soul and we are not this body. So the mantra we chant every Sunday or every day tells us, Ya Atmada Balada Yasya Vishwa Upasate, and the whole cosmos worships God. The sun worships God. I'll tell you how in a moment. The moon worships God. The stars worship God. Worship God. The earth worships God, and I'll tell you how. The earth takes 365, approximately 365 days to orbit the sun, and that is its way of worshiping God, in that it has surrendered itself to the rule of God. We worship somebody in higher authority when we submit ourselves to their rulership and to their administration. And so the moon worships God in that it goes around the earth in 27 point something days. One lunation of the moon, meaning one circumambulation of the moon around the earth, fits a certain pattern of time. And so it happens, the sun worships God in the sense that it rises at a certain specific time and it sets at a certain specific time. It worships God in that it observes the regulation and the rulership imposed by God. So it's very important that you and I, if we want to inculcate the strength to pursue the fact that we are soul and we are not anything material, we must subject ourselves and our strivings, our thinking, our words, our actions according to the rule of God. We must surrender to God. Ya Atmada Balada Yasya Vishwa Upasate Prashisham Yasya Devaha Yasya chayamritam yasya mrityuh. It says yasya chaya. The umbrella, God's umbrella, when we go underneath that umbrella, we get a sense of immortality. And when we come out of that umbrella, we feel death every moment. When we step out of God's shade, God's chaya, our thoughts become so difficult to deal with that we suffer from emotional turbulence, mankind. Our thoughts rock us. Our words bring us a loss of fame. Our words rock us. Our actions rock us. They rock us in that they take away our peace and our stability, and our sense of restfulness. All of that disappears because we are away from the umbrella, the shade of God. Under God's shade flows the nectar of deathlessness. When we are under God's shade, we take our two palms, this palm of mind and this palm of understanding, and we lift the nectar of blessedness and immortality, and we drink, and we feel a sense of fulfillment to mankind. Yasya chayamritam. And when we move away from God, moment after moment, we feel turbulent, we feel rocked on the inside. This is daily death. Death doesn't mean only that the soul exits the body. That's biological death, not that kind of death. We talk of spiritual death when we lose our inherent peace. As long as we are under the shade of God, we enjoy peacefulness, which is the same as immortality. And when we move away from the shade of God, when we move away from the rulership of God, we lose touches with that peace. And so the mantra says, Kasmai Devaya Havisha Vidhema. Let us take the flowers of our devotion in our hands, and our hands being, this hand being the mind, and this mind being the intellect, this hand being the intellect, and we take the flowers of our devotion, and we join the long line of rishis, gurus, yogis, and acharyas to go offer them to God, to the feet of God, and worship God with supreme love and devotion. So, brothers and sisters, this short mantra is telling me and you that God infuses in us when we connect with Him psychologically. God infuses in us the thought that we are soul and we are not body. Number one. Number two, God infuses in us the psychological and emotional strength for us to pursue that fact that we, and to realize that fact that yes, indeed, we are soul and we are not body. And then when we look up in the atmosphere and we see the sun and the moon and the stars and the earth and all the planets, how they work according to the rule of God, you and I must do the same. For in so doing, we come under His shade. And coming under His shade brings us a taste of nectarial bliss, brings us a taste of immortality, makes us connect with our true self. And our true self is a deathless self. We don't go through daily death. And when we move away from God, anger and greed and infatuation and vanity and lust, they take us over. And spiritually, every time they bash us, every time anger attacks us, every time lust attacks us, we suffer spiritually, we die spiritually. For that not to happen, let's take our two palms, fill them with the flowers of our devotion, and let's move ahead to join the long line of rishis, gurus, yogis, and acharyas. And we join that line and we surrender those flowers of devotion to God. So this is Dr. Satish Prakash telling you thank you for joining me in this third episode of Gurukul Sandesh, the message of the Gurukul. I invite you to come to Jamaica if you're in the New York area. Come join us at the Gurukul, 93-37 150th Street in Jamaica. You can catch me on WhatsApp, +1 917 680 2948. And you can find me on Facebook, Satish Prakash at yahoo.com. With that, I say namaste again to you. May God bless you, and may you soon realize you are soul, you're not this body.